Okay, so welcome everybody to the April Tanzania Youth Mapper group, and we're really delighted today to have Dr. Hans van der Kwast. I don't know, hopefully I said that something correct, who's going to talk to us about using AI to improve mapping in QGIS. So without further ado, over to you, and let's get started. And while we're operating, then please do feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, and also post any questions there. Okay, so thank you.
Thanks, Janet. And thanks everybody for joining. It's an honor to be here with you. I've been following the mappers in Tanzania already for a while. And in my institute where I work, IHE Delft Institute for Water Education, we even had a mapathon together with I think 3 different youth mapper groups in Tanzania to map for the floods in Pakistan. It's maybe half a year ago. I met some of you during the Phosphor-G in Firenze, and where there was also State of the Map, and I was active with the QGIS contributors, and we met during the breaks and had great talks. So I see it really important for my students at IHE Delft to also learn more about what you guys are doing and see how we can cooperate. So always feel free to contact me if you have any ideas, or if you want to have my students mapping together with you. We can organize mapathons, which are hybrid. And also for projects where mapping is needed, we are specialized in water, everything related to water, from the social sciences, water governance and management, to more water and sanitation or engineering topics. And I'm sure in your countries that's also very important. So the topic of today is, as introduced by Janet, using ChatGPT and QGIS with the QChatGPT plugin. I had a similar webinar some weeks ago for African women in GIS, which was also great fun. And last Wednesday, I also showed something for the Australian Water School. It was an awful time in the morning. I think I had to be there 5:15 to practice, and then getting ready around 6. So I need a lot of coffee for that. Today is a much better time. So let's get started. And I want to keep it interactive. So if you have any ideas, or if I pose any questions, feel free to use the chat. We can also ask ChatGPT and QChatGPT your questions, and I'll help you a bit with formulating those so-called prompts, so we can learn a bit how to deal with this. It's also very new technology, which means that we're still looking for use cases. So use your imagination, your creativity, and I'm sure you guys are all very creative, to come up with how would you use this in practice. And let's see during this session if we can answer that question, come up with some nice use cases related to mapping in your countries. So the first thing that I did was ask ChatGPT how to do this webinar, to see what it comes up with. So I used the normal web-based ChatGPT, and I said I'm invited for a webinar with the title ChatGPT and QGIS with the ChatGPT plugin. Do you have any ideas what I should include in the presentation? So you can already see that I can talk to ChatGPT like I talk with a friend or with you. You're also friends now, of course. And then it will give a human readable answer. So what it came up with is that I should first start with introducing myself and providing an overview of the presentation, then explain a bit about QGIS and its features, how it works, then explain what ChatGPT is, and applications and use cases. So that's all quite brilliant what it says that I have to do. Then about the QChatGPT plugin, introduce it, how it works, highlight features and benefits, and then show some practical use cases and do a demonstration, and then make some conclusions out of that, and encourage the audience to try it out, and then have a Q&A. Well, that's all great that QChatGPT can help me outlining this presentation, but I deviated a bit because still human creativity and my own ideas about what the audience needs or already knows maybe can improve this presentation. So I made something a little bit different, although I kept a few elements. So let's start introducing myself. So I'm Hans van der Kwast, and my background is that I'm a physical geographer. I studied at Utrecht University in the center of the Netherlands. I'm also now here in Rotterdam, tuning in. And I work at IHE Delft Institute for Water Education, where I'm an associate professor of open science and digital innovation. And I teach in our master program on water and sustainable development to students from the Global South, mostly from the Global South. And I teach mostly in open source GIS, so I don't do the commercial stuff. I really work with only open source software for remote sensing and hydrology, open source models. Before joining IHE in 2012, IHE Delft is the largest graduate school on water in the world. I was working for the Flemish Institute for Technological Research, which is in the northern part of Belgium, where they speak a similar kind of language as we do in the Netherlands, Dutch. And I worked there a lot with land use change modeling and water quality modeling. And there was also the time where I really discovered open source GIS tools and OpenStreetMap and other things that I use still day to day. I'm very active in the QGIS community. I'm a board member of the Dutch QGIS user group. If you don't have a user group in your country and you're interested, then you can also get in touch with me and see how we can set it up. There are already some countries in Africa also having user groups, which is really nice to see. I'm also owner of my own company, Kwast-GIS, to give open source consultancy, and I'm a member of Q Cooperative, which is a corporation of QGIS developers, core developers. And I have this book, QGIS for Hydrological Applications, that I wrote with Kurt Menke, and in 2022, the second edition came out, completely updated, and it's really a book that gets you through all this, the most common steps that we do in GIS for hydrology and catchment management. But when you buy the book, my income of the book goes to a fund to support our own IHE Delft students from the Global South, and mostly female, to join Phosphor-G and QGIS events. And I'm very happy to support a few this year. So we have Suzanne Dehati from Afghanistan, and she was supported to join the QGIS user conference in the Netherlands, which happened 2 weeks ago, which I was organizing with the team. And we had Zubaida Nimmer from Algeria, who I also financed to join that event. And Suzanne Dehati from Afghanistan will also join to the Phosphor-G in Kosovo in the end of June. So really great that I have that opportunity with the book to support interested students from the Global South who can get exposed to open source communities. And I hope they also meet the mapping communities at these events. You can find me on all social media channels. If you're interested in QGIS for hydrological applications, subscribe for my YouTube channel. There's a lot of videos there, and I will still produce more. So let's start about defining ChatGPT. So it stands for Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And transformer, that's not the transformer that you know from the movies, but a transformer is kind of a language model which it uses. And ChatGPT is a cutting-edge AI, artificial intelligence language model, and it's developed by OpenAI, which is a consortium of companies and people interested in this, and they finance it. And it uses a so-called large language model, an LLM. That is the key of this type of artificial intelligence. It is trained with basically everything it finds on the internet. And then it uses a neural network, which is an artificial intelligence technique to match the inputs with the desired outputs from the user. And special about this kind of artificial intelligence is that it can generate high quality human-like text in response to a prompt, as you've already seen when I asked about giving me an outline for this presentation. It is really good in conversations like humans would do, and not technical or manual style. And therefore, it has a wide range of applications. You can use it in chatbots and to improve your customer service, using it to create content. There have been There's a lot of websites already using this OpenAI API to generate presentations, to help you formulate your emails or your job application letters. So it has a lot of real nice applications that can help you be more efficient in the work that you do. And I think we are only at the starting point of this technology. I think that it would be very useful for me to have it answering questions on my YouTube channel, for example. A lot of things recur, or where students can interact with it. I will show some examples later during courses where many questions can be answered by such a bot if it's trained properly. So it has a great potential to transform how we communicate with computers without even using technical language. And I think that's a really good advantage. Now, if you want to know more about the technology that is behind ChatGPT and similar tools, then I can really recommend to watch the recording of the webinar that we did last Wednesday for the Australian Water School, which was called ChatGPT Water Sector Applications. And we had Cobra Etminani from Homestead University really explaining well how these algorithms work, how they are trained, and also how you can work with them. There were people from the industry, Chris Goodall, there was Clemens Krimmer from DHI, Richard Crowder from Jacobs, and Benjamin Kass from Watercom. And I demonstrated the QChatGPT plugin. There was not so much time, so we'll go a bit deeper into that today. But I can really recommend you to watch this video. You can use the QR code or the short link here to find it, to really get the background theory of this technology, which is quite important to understand. Let's move to GIS-related use cases. So what would be the potential of using ChatGPT? And it's very hard now in 2023 to already come up with all the potential uses of it. So I just do a few suggestions here, but feel free in the chat if you think like, hey, that would be really cool to do with ChatGPT related to GIS. So first of all, that's the easiest thing that you could come up with, and that's already implemented with the QChatGPT plugin, is using it as a chatbot interface in the GIS software or your mapping software to ask questions. How do I this or that? How do I digitize buildings properly in OpenStreetMap, and that it assists you and gives you guidance, or maybe even if it can generate pictures of examples of buildings in Tanzania. How do they look like, and how would you properly digitize it? So I think it will really go in that direction, that it assists you in doing these jobs, and that might help to increase the quality of your mapping, because if people use that information, it will improve the consistency of digitization. I know that there's already artificial intelligence embedded in some of the digitizing tools we use with OpenStreetMap, like RapidID. I think that's really cool, and I will further develop. I've also seen nice tools for segmenting of parcels, for example. These are also open algorithms that can be implemented, and I really hope that it will be implemented soon by someone in QGIS. It's already there for ArcGIS, but it's an open Python package that does it. You can feed it any image and it will segment it. And I also see a huge potential there for OpenStreetMap. Improve the accuracy of geocoding by identifying and correcting common address errors and misspellings. You know that if you do geocoding, that there's a lot of issues with spelling mistakes. And if it can help there, that would be really useful. I've experimented a little bit with geocoding in the QChatGPT plugin. It really doesn't work well yet. You can better use the nominatim geocoder that is included now also in QGIS. So in my demo, we're going to look a little bit at that. But I think the future is that it really goes through your tables and checks all these misspellings and mismatches. And if you join different tables, that it can correct it and correct the tags of your objects. And what's really good at is automating spatial analysis, and it can really generate good code snippets, especially in Python. So we'll also look at that. You can give it a prompt to do certain scripting and give constraints of which Python packages should be used. And then, yeah, you can try to improve what it comes up with your own knowledge. Another thing that's already a little bit explained is you can query also using natural language. So instead of writing Python scripts, or probably some of you will use the, how do you call that in OpenStreetMap, this overpass API queries. That's all quite technical. It needs some skills, but if you could just simply say to ChatGPT or a similar language model what you want, and it returns you the script, that would be much easier for many people to use. So basically moving the user away from the technical stuff and asking questions in human language and then getting back the result. We'll already see that a little bit in the QChatGPT plugin in a little bit. Provide design recommendations for maps. That would be really cool if you create a map and it will tell you where you can improve your map. And I teach a lot map design to my students and give them a lot of advice, but I still see that the devil is in the details, that there are many little mistakes made that can be prevented, but people are not so precise as computers. And if a ChatGPT kind of tool can help you to point out, hey, you used the underscore here in the legend, that's not really human readable, change it, or units are missing, or your colors are not okay for colorblind people. I really think that that would also help improving our work as mappers. But many more. So I invite you, if you have any ideas how we could use this, to post it in the chat, and then we can bring it up later. So let your brains do some creativity and think about how would you really use this in your day-to-day work. And maybe if it doesn't exist yet, I'm quite sure if you have great ideas that it will exist soon. One thing to also realize is many people are scared of this technology, and I think there are valid reasons to be scared of this technology. But I also think that we can't stop it. So it's better that we are aware of its potentials and limitations instead of just banning this technology, because it's out there and we can't stop it. And I think that was the same when the mobile phone was first introduced, or cars, that people were afraid. Maybe when the wheel was introduced, people thought, no, we're not going to use a wheel. That's freaking dangerous. Let's keep on dragging our stuff over the ground. Now, if you use this ChatGPT technology, you need to really phrase well your questions, and we call that the prompt. So the prompt is really key. And what you need to do is write it clearly, as clearly as possible, to give it enough information to answer your question. And what is a good tool to help you with that is the Create framework that I found. You just need to remember the word create. It's an abbreviation. The C stands for clarity. So first, clearly define the task or intent of what you are asking ChatGPT, and include all the specific information about the output that you need. So for example, include the data that it needs to use to answer your question, include the tools that you are using, because the less information you give, the more random answers you will get. So if it's about OpenStreetMap data, then add OpenStreetMap in the prompt. If it's about using QGIS or the ID editor or something else, include it in your prompt. That's also for the R, relevant info. So provide relevant details, maybe specific areas where you work, keywords and facts. Also the tone, maybe you want some study area description that you need to enter into a report. You can tell it to write it for a non-technical audience, give it some format and structure that you want the output in, and then it can really help you instead of being very generic. E for examples, you can add examples, and that will help ChatGPT to formulate even better answers. The A, avoid ambiguity. So it also has to do with the other ones. If you don't feed that key information and give all kinds of unnecessary details, it will work less well. So the T for tinker. Test and refine. I think that is also what we normally do when we use these tools, is maybe your first shot doesn't give the desired answer. And if you iterate and improve on your prompt, you will get better results. Also, the results are not what we call empirical, which means, deterministic. It's not deterministic. It means that you can ask the same question again and we'll come up with other answer. So it's not that every question results in the same answer. That's also for these kind of live demos a bit difficult, because I never know what it will come up with this time. But also there, the more information you give, the better the answer. And then evaluate, continuously evaluate the output and adjust the prompt as needed to improve the quality. And I really want to emphasize that because many people and many of my students, they simply believe everything that comes out of a computer, and you shouldn't do that. You should be very critical. It is still very valid to be a professional and to study and to learn things and to read books, because you need to judge what comes out. Otherwise, it's just anecdotal what ChatGPT comes up with. Maybe it's the same if you go to a bar and start discussing politics with somebody. You don't know if it's based on facts or if it's an opinion, and it all gets messed up. So every time you ask something to artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, use your brains to check the answers, even ask where it got those facts from, if these are facts, and see if you can get references to it. And that's also a scientifically proper approach. So never just blindly believe anything that comes out of it. So let's go a bit more practical. But before we go to QChatGPT, I think it's good to have a look at some use cases of ChatGPT itself. So I'm going to see if we can do a live demo here. There are a few things to take care of. It is that it can be super busy, and I cannot get through, but I think it's now quite quiet. It's not a peak hour, so I think we will succeed with that. And then I can ask it steps to do some analysis, and I'll try to do my best to get it more into your mapping world. The example you see here on the screen has to do with hydrology, giving the steps to delineate streams and catchments in QGIS. So I'm gonna move ChatGPT here to the screen, and hope you can still see it. Please let me know in the chat if you can see it, if I've correctly shared. Let me know. Yes, okay, thanks, Janet. So if you go to chat.openai.com, you will enter in this ChatGPT environment, but you need a login. So I'm logged in here, and you can use this for free. And it gives here some examples, what you can do. It will remember previous chats. So here you see what I used in a previous webinar, but we're going to do a new one today. Its capabilities, but also these limitations. It warns that it can generate incorrect information. It can even have harmful instructions or biased content. And its knowledge of the world is limited. It has been trained until 2021. So it means newer things are not there. So let's start asking a question. So what tools can I use to contribute to OpenStreetMap? Let's see what it thinks. There are several tools: the OpenStreetMap editor, the ID editor. There's also JAWSOM and Potlatch. Field papers, I don't know that one. Mapillary, yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. The hot tasking manager is mentioned there. Ozemcha, MapRoulette, MapKit. So that's really great. A lot of different tools, and I recognize many of them, and you probably also do. So you'd see, as a beginner, you want to get started with it, you can just ask that question, and it can help you with that. And let's ask another question. Where can I find the tags used in OpenStreetMap? Keys and values. See if it knows where to find that. In the OpenStreetMap wiki. It even gives me the link. And in addition to the wiki, there are also other resources available, such as Overpass API. Okay, that's interesting information again that we can use. So if you have any question to ChatGPT here, feel free to write your prompt in the chat and I'll help tuning the prompt to properly formulate it, or we can discuss how to improve it. So feel free to add anything in the chat. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask another question. Isn't it dangerous that anybody can edit OpenStreetMap? See what it answers here. It says, well, it's true that anyone can edit OpenStreetMap. The project has developed a number of safeguards and mechanisms to ensure the quality and accuracy of the data. So it starts explaining here. Of course, the community, has dedicated contributors who work together to review and validate. And there are experienced mappers that review. Secondly, there's version control, so we can track all the changes. If there's errors, then it can be identified and corrected. Thirdly, it has guidelines and best practices that contributors are expected to follow. And finally, there is a system for flagging and removing inappropriate content, etc., etc. So I think this is also very useful for people new to OpenStreetMap to understand. They might have doubts on the quality, etc. So that's all very useful. Now let's get a little bit more technical. Can you write an overpass API query to download all building footprints in Arusha? It starts writing. I'm not proficient in Overpass API, so maybe someone who is seeing this can comment if this is a good query. So I see here output JSON, the timeout 25 seconds. Area is Arusha. It searched the area. Building. So does anybody know if this looks good? Can we trust this? Can I feed this to the Overpass API? Otherwise, we just need to try it. No, no one has an idea. Then I'll just continue. So in the same way, you can generate Python code. Please write a Python script to that loads a shapefile with polygons of building footprints. And that calculates the surface area of each polygon. And here it starts writing the script, and it's very concise. It uses GeoPandas. Therefore, it also is very short. You can simply use the geometry area. So it looks like it's going to work like this. I could give it other constraints, like use Shapely. So I can edit this. Use Shapely. And see if it then does it in a different way. Yeah. Less concise, but you always need to test if it really works, what comes out. So that's important. It can help you. It can really speed up your coding in Python, but there are two things. It can make errors because it does not have enough information, or it really gives you wrong objects that don't exist. And the second thing is you might need it, or you probably need this in a bigger workflow. So what I do is I let ChatGPT generate scripts, which I then write into functions that I then use in a bigger script. And then it's a bit of trial and error to improve the code. It also gives this very nice explanation on how everything works, which helps you also to better understand the result. I think that's all pretty cool and helpful. So we have looked at these examples, code snippets. Now there is ChatGPT-3 and ChatGPT-4, and ChatGPT-3 is for free, but ChatGPT-4 you need to pay. But the good thing is that it comes for free in Bing, and we can have a look at it also in a bit. ChatGPT-4 is much more powerful than ChatGPT-3. It has many more parameters of the neural network that is used. It's much better trained, therefore it gives more factual information. It's multimodal. It means that it can also understand images. You can upload pictures and use that in your questions to ChatGPT. It can process larger texts. You can get results of 25,000 words at a time, or upload even your own documents. In the benchmarks, it gives much better accurate results, and it is less likely to respond to requests for disallowed content. That's something, because it's trained on the internet, there is a bias in the information. There can be wrong information there, or racist things. So there are all kinds of mechanisms that the developers of these tools have put in place to avoid that you get that kind of sensitive and dangerous information. Which is dangerous in itself too, because who decides? Now here on the right side, you see the animation of using ChatGPT-4 in Bing, and you can choose different modes there that influence the results. Under Compose, you can ask it to write, to help you writing text, and it can give you insights. So I think let's have a look. Yeah, let's have a look at Bing. So here, here's then Bing in my Edge browser, and I'm here in the chat tab, and I can choose here what tone of the response is: creative, balanced, or precise. Let's go for precise in this case. And we're going to ask what is a good YouTube channel to learn about mapping in OpenStreetMap. Takes a bit of time. Let's see what it comes up with. So it points to the humanitarian OpenStreetMap team channel. That seems to be indeed a very reliable resource. You have a playlist, Learn to Map, and it gives here the references to YouTube, so you can immediately click and see if it's indeed the case. There's also from MapGive, and so if I click here, it will open it, and I can see that indeed it was true and very useful. So you see that using ChatGPT-4 in Bing gives you, with these footnotes, the references, and you can link immediately through to what it came up with. So I think that's very nice. And if you then say that you like the answer, then you also help improving the algorithm. Okay, we'll go to QChatGPT in a little bit, but I also want to show you some of the things that are important for education. So there is the Khan Academy is experimenting with it, because it's quite dangerous to to use this in education, because it will simply give you all the answers of your exam questions. But the Khan Academy did this in a smarter way, because a student asks you, can you just tell me the answer? And then it refuses to give the answer. It will guide you to help you to find the answer yourself. So I see your question in the chat from Irene. How do I access ChatGPT-4? Well, simply use the Edge browser, from the browser from Microsoft, and you will find this blue bee, and you can use it for free. It's also in Office 365 and all the Microsoft products, and that will really make you use it for free. If you want to use it through a normal web browser, then you need to pay for it. We also see that Moodle has plugins for OpenAI that help to assist in giving answers. And that might be useful for my GIS OpenCourseware platform. If you look for free courses on GIS, go to gisopencourseware.org. I'll just add it now in the chat. Where you find a lot of free GIS courses, everything with open source software, so make use of that. But that would be very useful in the future if I could use this OpenAI to also answer the questions of people who follow it for free, because normally we, for paid courses, we of course offer support. Now let's have a look at the QChatGPT plugin. It was developed by Marios Kyriakou from the QGIS Research and Innovation Center of Excellence in Cyprus. And it was funny when, so I'm on the list to see all the new plugins coming by, and was a day that I needed a bit of clickbait to get myself over the 20,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. And then when I saw this plugin was new and I checked it, I saw that there was not much information or use case on how to use this. So I started experimenting a bit with it, and then I thought, okay, let's make a screen recording of it and have a little bit of fun for my YouTube channel. And that worked out really well. Many people have watched it. But the interesting thing that I find is that many people see only the advantages of it, while in that first video, I also demonstrated that it gives you a lot of wrong answers. What this technology does, it will often not say you that it doesn't know the answer. It will start what we call hallucinating. So it starts making up things. And what you can see in that ChatGPT video on my YouTube channel is that it really gives wrong answers, but you need to do some research to find out that the answer was wrong. But I think it gave a lot of ideas on how to further improve this plugin, and there's newer versions now. So the first version that was available through the plugins manager of QGIS was released on 12 February 2023. I think Marios and others watched my video and made a lot of improvements, like how to add points on your map directly. And the current version is 0.4. It can also generate images for you, which you can use in your maps. And it has already more than 20,000 downloads. Now what it does, it integrates the OpenAI API in QGIS. So basically you have a chatbot. So let's have a look at that. We'll go to QGIS. And you can install it, let me go there, through the plugins manager. Go to manage and install plugins. Search for QChatGPT. You need an internet connection to connect to the repository. And then you simply click install. The first time you install it, it will install also the dependencies that you need, because it needs to communicate with OpenAI to the API. You can also see that there are installation notes if you use a Mac. So if you cannot get those dependencies working, check the homepage of the plugin. Every plugin has that homepage link, and here you also see other videos, and probably the recent webinars will also be added here. But here you can also find more information about how to install that plugin if it doesn't work out of the box for your operating system. But on Windows, it automatically installs, and anytime if there's an update, it will tell you that there's an update. In the first versions, it didn't have memory. Now it remembers the last 6 interactions. So if you ask a question and you follow up, in the past, it would not really have a memory. So you need to really provide all the information. What it also does is the line breaks. Now in the first videos, it didn't do that. So a lot of nice improvements. You will find this button after installation, the QChatGPT button, and then it will add here this doc where you can interact with ChatGPT or with the language models. What you need to do is first go to settings, because you need an API key. And well, let's go through these settings. So it uses different language models. So you can choose here. You can read on the internet through this link what this all means, but I will just keep the default here. They all have trade-offs. So some are faster and then also cheaper in use because you have some free credits. I'll show that to you. Temperature is where you can indicate how deterministic the answer is. So the higher the temperature, the more random your answers, and the lower the temperature, the less random. But it's good to keep the randomness a bit high, so it gives more creative answers. And the maximum length and the image size can be put in here. But the higher, of course, the more credits you will lose. Now you need that API key, which I'm going to reset after this webinar because it's personal and it uses the credits. So if I click right, I can copy the link location. If I click, it doesn't open. I think there's some protection in my setup here. So I can go to the browser, paste that link. And there you can see your account. So you need an account and you can create a secret key. It will not give it to you here anymore. So when you create a new key, you can give it a name and you need to copy that key so you can use it in QGIS. You can always add or remove the keys. So for webinars, I will remove it because if I go to usage, you see that I have here a free trial usage until the 1st of May for $18, and it uses really little, so I can use it easily. But every time I ask a question using that API key, then it will deduct some amount. Okay, let's start using this. So what you could do is ask for locations. I can say, can you give me a point in Arusha in GeoJSON format? Remember that it can only return you strings or a picture, so not GIS data. And if I do enter, it will ask that question. And here it gives the GeoJSON. And what Marius has improved is that I can immediately add it on the map. So if I click here, this one doesn't work. Interesting. And let's do it manually. So I can go here, sorry, to simply paste it and say add. No, so it's not a valid result. So let's try it again. Please give me a point in GeoJSON format. Please give me the location of Moshi in GeoJSON format. Let's see if this one works. No. Interesting, because previously that worked. It might be a bit buggy. So I suggest that you watch the videos, the video on my YouTube channel where I tried it. What I found out was that it could easily find a point, a random point in a city, but it doesn't if you would ask for a specific street, that it's not precise. And then you can better use the nominative geocoder. So I don't know if you're aware of it, but if I use larger than here in the locator bar and a space, I can start typing here maybe Moshi, and it will look up Moshi, and if I click there, it will center to it. And you see here that it uses the nominative geocoder made available by the OpenStreetMap Foundation and contributors. So you have a live connection between QGIS and the geocoder, and that works far better than the QChatGPT chat that you have here. Okay, let's ask it another question. Which plugin in QGIS, it doesn't know that it is in QGIS, so I need to be precise in the prompt. Which plugin in QGIS can I use to download OpenStreetMap vector data? Let's see. It says the Quick OSM plugin, and that's indeed a great plugin. I have it already installed here, but you can look for it here. I don't know if you know it. It's made by Etienne Trimay, a really useful plugin, Quick OSM. And then you will get this button, and then you can do all the queries here. And it used the Overpass API. So that was a good answer and helpful if you're looking for something. Now, how do I get a nice OpenStreetMap backdrop in my QGIS project? To get a nice backdrop, you can use the Quick Map Services plugin, and that's indeed also a good answer. So let's go to the Quick Map Services plugin here, and I'll install it. And then here under Web, Quick Map Services, I find here OSM Standard, which is in fact the same that you see here. Interesting for you to know is that if you go to Settings, more services get contributed back. You get many more backdrop layers. So if you go back then to the Web menu, you find here also Bing satellite, for example, and it will load it in your QGIS project. And you can also use there the Google satellite product. It's very high resolution, of course. So that's also helpful. Now, if we want to do analysis, let's say, how can I calculate the surface area of polygons in QGIS? It says the field calculator tool in QGIS can be used. Right-click on the layer containing polygons and select field calculator, then select the field to be calculated area and select the geometric function area geometry. Now, this is almost correct, although this geometric function can just be $area. So let's see if I have some vector layer, or let's digitize something. I can make a new scratch layer here, demo. It's a polygon. I'll keep, or let's use a pseudo-marketer and call this ID, integer. Okay, add to field list. Okay, got a new layer here. It's in editing mode, and I'm going to add polygon here. Let's just add a polygon here. Click right, it's completed. This ID number 1. Okay, now go to the attribute table. And I'm going to follow the instructions. I use the field calculator, that's this button. And there I can create a new layer. Let's call it area. I need to set it to decimal number. You can use these decimals here, that's okay. But then it says select the geometric function area geometry. And there, if I go to geometry, then I find here area, which gives me the area. So that is different from what it says. And then press the calculate button. It doesn't have a calculate button, it's just okay. And then I get the area in square meters. Depending on your language settings, there's a comma or a dot. And then I can save the result. So here you can see that it can be used as a chatbot to help you, but you need to be a bit cautious. If you have any questions or comments, indeed, put them in the chat. The last thing I want to show is that it can generate an image. And you can use those images in your maps, or maybe you want a fancy north arrow. So create a north arrow for a map about wildlife in Tanzania. Now, I'm not sure what it will come up with. Let's see. and it created this. It's a modern thing. You recognize a little bit of maps in there, but you could also ask create an image of a braided river. And then you get this nice arty result. So you can create these things, and then you can check back in your credits how much it has used to keep an eye on that. So refresh it. There, see, it doesn't use much. Okay, I'll go back to my last slides, but still feel free if you want to see anything or have ideas, just let me know. Just have a concluding slide here. So what we have seen is that ChatGPT is a useful chatbot for assisting you in your GIS analysis procedure, finding the right tools, writing code, finding projections. I've not showed that, but you can ask the bot, what is the projection used in Tanzania? Please give me the EPSG code. Finding points. I'm not sure why it didn't work now. I will check that. But you also need to be careful. You still need your GIS expertise. So don't forget to go to courses and schools, watch YouTube and learn and educate yourself, because it's not going to give you perfect answers yet. It will not tell you when it doesn't know. So you need to judge the responses. You need to fix errors of code snippets that it comes up with, embed them in your own workshop and always in your workflows, and always fact check when ChatGPT is hallucinating. And if you're not very experienced, you might think that, oh, that sounds really convincing. But I could see from the results of today that it still needs a bit of knowledge to use it appropriately. So that was my last slide. I don't know if there are questions from the audience.
Thank you so much. So this is your last chance to ask any questions. So please don't be shy. Either type them in the chat, or if you prefer to unmute and ask them, please do so now, or you'll miss the opportunity. Well, I think that was a great deal to take in, and I'm sure people will have learned a lot and will want to probably review the recording, which I'll share to everybody that registered. And I'm sure that people will have found this incredibly useful to help their mapping. So if nobody has any questions, I'd like to just thank Dr. van der Kwast very much for this really informative. Oh, there is a question quickly. Can you tell us a bit more about how we can use ChatGPT in map design? Great question.
I think at the moment, it can only give you some guidelines that it finds on the internet from people who write about map design. But as I present on one of my slides, I think the future is that it really checks what you make, that it can really go one step further. Now we have a QChatGPT as a bit of a stupid chatbot in your QGIS screen. But what if it can really see what you're doing there? What if it can see your maps? What if it can read your attribute tables? Then it becomes a much smarter thing, because it can find mistakes in what you produce. So we're not there yet, but I'm quite sure at this moment there are many people thinking about it and maybe trying to improve it. We also discussed this with Marius, who's the developer of the plugin, during the webinar for Australian Water School last Wednesday. And one of the things I think is very useful is if it would scrutinize all the documentation of QGIS and all the blogs that are on the internet to make it a bit more specific for QGIS, and then it can help you.
Fantastic. So perhaps we could schedule another call with you in a year and to see how things have developed, because I'm sure they will have done, or perhaps even quicker than that.
Yes, I think the developments go really fast, and I'll keep a good eye on it, and also looking forward to what you guys are doing it in your day-to-day work.
Well, thank you so much. This has been an incredibly useful session. I'm really glad that so many people joined, and we'll also look at the recording later. And I welcome everybody to our next session. I will send out the invite to people that registered. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.